Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. I hope I'm audible. And I'm Anushri from Iris, and I will be um, sharing the stage, I must say, for this webinar along with DAA and Rosefield Energy Tech. A few housekeeping announcements before we start. All the participants are on mute. Video has been disabled. Question and answers are most welcome. You can put it in the chat box and we will take it on the fly. So as and when we go ahead, we will be taking up the right away. We will begin.
Okay. Thanks, Anushri.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. And I would like to certainly extend warm welcome to all the participants and the panelists, Captain Mujumdar, Sridhar Subramaniam, and Anushri Joshi Project. So basically, before getting into the context setting, let me just introduce myself before I request our panelists to introduce themselves. So my name is Shailendra Gokhale, and I'm managing partner for Rosefield DA, a JV between Rosefield Energy Tech and DA Consulting. Basically, we are very much into circular economy, and this is a part of ESG. Circularity is becoming extremely important. So, as an organization, we are highly committed to help organizations achieving certain targets, and particularly in the era of extended producer responsibility, it becomes very, very important. And particularly, I look after the energy practice of Rosefield DA. And just to give you my brief background, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I started my career with Lubrizol in India before joining Castrol, which was acquired by British Petroleum later. So I was with Castrol BP for 17 years, initially in India, and then last few years in UK as a part of global leadership team. And then I came back to India to start my own consulting firm along with DA, and that's how we have developed now. Last couple of years, our practices in ESG, particularly in the circular economy. I'm working very closely with Niti Aayog to drive the sustainability in the energy sector, particularly on the used oil. And we are basically the consultants helping organizations to reduce their carbon footprint through our practices. Those companies who are either consuming energies or producing energies. Apart from that, we also are in the training. So we have been conducting various training programs for the organizations. Soon we will be doing that with a certified program in circular economy. And we also bring various stakeholders together through the in-person conferences, which we did last year in May 23. And again, this year, we are going to plan it in June 2024, just to underline the importance and recognition of ESG and circular economy in particular. So that's about me and my organization. And I would like to request Captain to introduce himself.
Very good evening to, good morning to everyone. This is Captain Tapas Mazumdar, and I'm part of DAA Consulting, part of the ESG practice of DAA Consulting. A bit about myself, fundamentally independent director on boards of companies and ESG professional, been in the domain for good about 7 years now, specifically in the space of reporting and building of practice. So the core area of expertise is building a strong sustainability practice for clients and linking it up to strong environmental and financial goals. A little about my organization I'm representing, DAA Consulting. We have basically started off as in the taxation domain. So we do taxes, direct and indirect, for India and global, foreign trade practice, policy, and free trade agreements. We are in the regulatory, including FEMA, company law and SEBI, IBC, that's essentially insolvency and the bankruptcy code, NCLT, mergers and acquisitions both in India and globally, business valuation, audits of various types, GRC, that's governance, risk and compliance, including ESG, funding, MSME support, governance in family-run businesses, IPOs, and legal and secretarial services. And we are also in the space of ESG, building of ESG practice, ESG audit, ESG reporting, and preparing organizations for ESG evaluations. That could be your rating evaluation, that could be when your investors are going to audit you and you need to prepare your organization for that. That's the kind of work that we at DAA Consulting do. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Captain. Can I request Sridhar to introduce himself?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karendra. Thank you, Tapas. At the outset, I want to start off with thank you for inviting me into this wonderful webinar. And I also really to wish DAA all the very best on their get into their practice of sustainability, which I do believe is a next future agenda for most clients who require the support. And I'm very happy to see DAA leading that from the front. And I'm also happy to see a person like Captain Tapas, whom I've interacted well, who's absolutely an expert in the area of sustainability. And I'm happy to be associated on this webinar. Having said that there, just to introduce myself, I'm a chartered accountant. I migrated from a typical financing background to a business role about 10 years back. That's me. My career started with the alcohol industry. I was a CFO. I left as CFO of Diageo. And then I joined CFO of Pfizer and then transitioned to being the managing director of Pfizer till about last May. I took a break in last May to do something a lot more closer to my heart. And that's what I'm doing today here. I've done multiple roles in my career, CFO, manage supply chain, manage business units. I manage the anti-infective business and then transition to a country management role. I also was head of the president of the OPPI, which is the association of all the multinational pharmaceutical companies in India. And I'm also the chair of FICCI, or the pharma business, for about 3 years. What I do currently now, I run a small advisory business. I'm on a board of an Indian biotech company. I'm mentoring a startup in the oncology space. I'm working very closely on an alcohol project, which is very close to my heart, and also working with the PE fund on their investments in India on the pharma sector. So this is what I keep doing. And once in a while, coming on webinars like this and talking, having conversations. So thank you for inviting me once again, Shailendra and DAA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sridhar. Can I request Anushi to introduce herself?
Thank you so much. Very good morning to all of you. I am Anushri and I work with Iris Business Services Limited in the domain of XBRL and IXBRL for ESG as well. So I have just a background of mine. I'm a chartered accountant and working with Iris for almost a decade plus, that is 12 years plus. I have helped Fortune 500 companies to go ahead and comply with the different types of mandates, may it be the European or the US or the Indian mandate of GST. Now we are looking forward for the ESG domain and ESG developments on the compliance side. So that's a sweet introduction from my side. Very good morning and welcome all of you.
Thank you, Anushi. So just wanted to set a brief context for this. So basically, sustainability has taken center stage and managing ESG risk is increasingly under scrutiny by regulators, investors, and society. Evolving field with multiple specialization are throwing up opportunities and importantly risks, some even existential for businesses. So we are looking to invest in discussing three of the major aspects that impedes effective performance. And this is first webinar of that series of 3, as you are aware. We are doing so through the analysis of sustainability practices of companies, the how and what. And today we will be discussing how these can impact financials and environment. We are well supported, as you can see, by a distinguished panel of industry experts had key learnings from their years of experience to the discussion. So without much ado, I would like to go to Captain Tapas. And Captain, what does it take to build a strong sustainability practices?
Well, that's a $1 million question, actually. But to be very honest, it is more simpler than it is often made out to be. And I will be talking about that today as well as we go ahead. So with everybody's permission, if I can share my screen, I'll be taking the support of a short presentation.
Is there any technical snack?
I think we'll have to wait for audio to come, I think.
Yeah.
The presentation is visible, sir. Tapas sir is inaudible.
Tapas, can you speak? I think, yeah. I think there is some problem.
You are not audible, sir. We can't hear you.
No, sir, we can't hear you. To all the attendees, we apologize for the 5 minutes. There's some technical issue that we are facing. Please give us few moments.
All right. I should be audible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just resharing the screen again. Sorry for that.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible. You can move to the presentation mode.
Perfect. All right. We are seeing the full screen.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So what we're doing today is essentially the analysis of industry practice and sustainability reporting for financial and environmental success. Now, reporting is a subset of practice. If you get the practice strong and correct, reporting will, the quality of the report will automatically be good. Right? So we're going to look at different aspects of it, starting right from understanding what the landscape actually is. Now, although we are all talking about ESG and that it is in focus today, actually, it is not something which is new. The fact of the matter is, businesses has always been dealing with environmental, social, and governance issues. If your company is a going concern, you've always been dealing with it. It is just that because of climate change, it is more into focus, and because there is a greater action required to stem climate change and possibly, hopefully someday we reverse it. That's the reason why it is in greater focus. That's why your investors, your regulators are more and more focused, and that's obviously having an impact on business as well. So ESG is something that we have always been dealing with. So where did it start? The focus actually started when funding moved decisively towards those companies which had strong sustainability practice. And the likes of Larry Flinks were the one who actually drove the initial part of the focus on ESG. The famous email that he sent to his portfolio company CEOs in 2021 set the tone in US and in Europe. Europe today leads. So it was funding that moved. And going forward, this is going to be a main focus. Funding will decisively further move on towards those companies with strong ESG or sustainability practices. Now, this was followed up by the regulators. So a lot of compliances eventually came up. So we had different frameworks, we had different legislations that was passed in different geographies like EU, Europe, in US, in Asia, and even in our country in particular. The idea of all of this regulation was to start practice. It was not merely compliance. Compliance, if a government has to implement, the tools that he has is, and the preferred choice is normally legislation. So where you force companies to report on, so that's how the practice starts. Despite all the burden that it brings, the focus is still on practice for a simple reason. It is only practice that will create impact, and that impact will actually stem climate change or even reverse it, optimistically speaking. The third player in this space has been activism and performance. Now, activism was shareholder activism, stakeholder activism, lot of legal cases being filed against companies, directors of companies for non-compliance, for inadequate focus, so on and so forth. And we saw a rise in such cases, Shell being the most famous one, where the shareholders and a social group also took them to court. So three drivers: funding, compliance, activism, and performance. Now, just to give a short preview, the assets under ESG is probably going to touch close to about 53 trillion by 2025. Now, this is as per Bloomberg. Approximation, there are many estimates to this, some more than 53, some less than 53, but one thing is for sure, it is significantly moving. So companies with strong practices are likely to get greater benefits. When it comes to laws, since 2010, there's been a 155% increase in the number of legislations. Literally every country is having its own legislations. EU as a blanket is not just having, it is further improving on that. Europe, Asia, we ourselves, in India, we have our own BRSR, and now we have the BRR. Going forward, there's going to be assurance and ratings and carbon exchange and so on and so forth. So the number of legislations coming up is significant. Now, this is also impacting cost of doing business. So if you're doing business in any of these geographies, the chances are that you have to comply with their ESG norms, else you pay the penalty. So that's how this is connected. Activism, and this has taken off big way. It is already silently impacting businesses significantly. Like for example, in ExxonMobil, the shareholders voted against the management, 62% of them, on disclosures of the impact of their business on climate, where the management had decided against. And this 62% in the previous year, well, there's 38% as compared to the previous year. There's a 38% increase. The shareholders were more agile, they were more interested to understand the climate impact, social impact, and the governance impact of the business. Apple, for example, the shareholders urged Apple to improve the labor conditions, especially their manufacturing in China and the labor conditions there. And Apple had to take action. A few more things on the legislation part which we should understand. The claims against state and the public, and this data is more of US, but the same trend is in Europe and is beginning to show in India as well. Claims against state and public entities are increasing. More in the space of systemic climate litigations, especially human rights. Now, this is impacting not just their business, but also with whom they are doing business with. In other words, even your suppliers, your stakeholders, and in some cases even clients necessarily need to be seen compliant, not just compliant, but seen compliant in human rights. Third-party activities, licensing, construction, investment, basically third-party activity, procedural obligations broadly, and central banks and their supervisors. The second area for non-financial entities, fossil fuel and energy companies are seeing increased litigations. Transport sector is seeing an increased litigation. Agriculture and food companies are facing litigations on climate. Plastic producers, okay, and concrete producers. These are the four broad areas where we have seen an increase in number of climate-related litigations, ESG-related litigations. And the basis of the claims fundamentally is in torts law. Well, they're claiming for damages retrospective. Okay, there's violation of corporate laws. They're seeking the claims around that. Greenwashing is very big, and breach of directors' duties. Now, this is comparatively a recent trend where directors are in the litigations are being named and individual directors are being pointed out, even if they have been part of board decisions, but if they are not able to prove that not enough, that they have done enough, they have done adequate, they have done whatever they could have. So any shortcomings is also getting pulled up, and this is something that we are seeing pretty new. So sustainability is part of doing business, and it is impacting business already. Let me share some examples out here. Tesla was removed from S&P 500, removed, and it's not a one-time. It's a long drawn process of removal from any of the ESG index. The reason why they were removed, one, of course, that's something to do with their auto drive, but the major reason was they were not handling racial discrimination cases adequately, in the opinion of S&P. Now, more specifically, this was in connection with sexual harassment cases. Now, the key point here is not that Tesla was not dealing with these, but in the opinion of S&P 500, it wasn't adequate. And I see this as a good trend because there is someone who is trying to set standards here. It has got its pluses and minuses, I completely agree, but this is the reality. S&P was thrown out. And coincidentally, in the same year, on the same date, ExxonMobil moved 25 basis points up. Now, despite that being a petroleum company. And one of the things that this incident destroyed, one of the myths that it destroyed, was that it is not about your product or your service. It is the way that you deliver your product and service. ExxonMobil was able to reduce its carbon emissions in its extraction and transportation. Extraction, storage, and transportation. Significantly, that was the reason why they moved up. While Tesla was thrown out because they were not dealing with sexual harassment cases and racial discrimination cases adequately. And these are increasingly becoming a trend. Let's take an Indian company, Adani Port and Logistics. Dow Jones officially removed Adani Port and Logistics. Now, the background to this is Adani had signed a commercial agreement with the government of Myanmar to develop the Yangon port on Yangon River. Now, this is a commercial with a contract with the civilian government. It has no military application at all. But when the military took over, the United States government declared that this is a regime that violates human rights and hence no business with it. Adani said, we are an Indian company. Indian government has not declared any such thing. So we continue and honoring our commercial agreement, which they were technically right. But over a period of time, because they did not comply to Dow Jones requirements, they were thrown out. And they were not just the only one. They were not the only company that was thrown out. There were other companies as well. Now, when this happened, I mean, the whole debate about Indian government and US government is one side, but the impact on the company was severe. They lost 10 major investors in a span of 8 months. I'm literally talking 100% exit. And that was a huge financial loss. The risk management committee of the company eventually came to a conclusion that the losses by not complying was far more than the project itself. So what did they have to do? A $290 million project, they had to exit, and they had a write-off of $127 million. And that's hardcore impact. Now, while we are talking negative impact, let's talk about some positive impact as well. The Tata Power and L&T both secured term loans from different banks. Tata Power secured $320 million from Bank of America and L&T from a bank in Japan. And that was because they stood good in their sustainability evaluation by the bank. And what was the benefit? Both companies got a 25 basis point discount on the term loan. And that's massive saving because of their sustainability practice. The sustainability practice can impact you negatively, can impact you positively, both. It is impacting your business. The real question is, are you taking it on your revenue side or are you taking it on your cost side? We are no longer debating whether it is good for business, whether it is impacting business. The answer is already a yes. It already is. The question now that we ask CEOs and get the boards to ponder over, where are we going to take the hit? That is where ESG and sustainability stands as on today in our businesses. Let's look at the Indian landscape, how things are going. Let me share a small chart. So the bars, blue bars are essentially showing you the number of companies who are reporting on sustainability, while the line is showing the global carbon emissions. Initially, for the first 10 years, most of the reporting was done by large companies. Just like in India, we had the first lot to report on BRSR was the top 1,000 companies. Similarly was the approach followed by other exchanges and other governments as well. But they're not small by any standards. Now, I don't expect carbon emissions to really go down just because other companies, large companies, global companies who are major polluters are actually beginning to report. But if you notice, there is not even a downward trend. The only trend we saw during COVID is because industrial activity came down. That was the only reason why. One of the major reasons for this is because we were focused on reporting, not practice, because practice would have impact. So all the focus remained on a marketing kind of an effort where we are talking about how great the companies are, and Some of the companies really are doing good job, but I cannot say the same for all. On top of that, if I superimpose all the wonderful frameworks that we have, UNGC, GRI, Greenhouse Gas Protocol, CDP, this was existing even before 2003. And then we have all the other frameworks. These frameworks are good. They're logical, they're structured, they're uniform, they are simple. Because over a period of time, all of these frameworks have been revised so many times that it's almost a clerical job to fill it up. So these are good, but somehow carbon emissions have not come down. There's no trend downwards. So somewhere we are missing something. Let me support this by one more chart. This is the temperature of our planet, right, starting right from 1880. So earlier we were a frozen planet, temperatures were more on the negative, and today we are warmed up. And even the United Nations agrees that climate change is a natural process. We survived even in 1880, we survive even today, and going forward we will survive. The issue is not so much about climate change as it is about the rate at which it is changing. We notice towards the end, for the 20 years, the last 20 years, the spikes are more and they are more clustered. That is what is killing us. And if we don't control that, that's what will eventually has the potential to remove life, finish life as we know it. The rate of climate change is where the issue is. So it's not just climate change that we are talking about. What exactly is going to bring this down? I've been talking about practice and practice. It is practice that creates impact. If we focus more on practice, the rest is automatic. It is given. The efforts in India has been a lot practice focused, and the credit goes to the ESG committee of SEBI. They've come up with regulations from time to time in a very systematic and a slow manner. It may be uncomfortable to companies, but they haven't rushed it. So the way it went in India, first we had the BRR, then we had the BRSR, and now we have BRSR core. If you notice, BRSR core is completely numbers. Then it came up with a circular on assurance. And the top 150 companies will need to now report on that. Then it came up with a circular on ESG ratings. And the good part of this, we aren't following the trend, what is there in Europe or in the US. We are actually learning from them and improving on it. So ratings, for example, when ratings gets mandatory and we will start implementing it, and if you go through the circle, you realize a lot of issues that were created in EU, in US on ratings is already being factored in and precautions have already been taken. So yes, we might make mistakes. We will probably make mistakes, but I think most of them will be new ones because we have learned from what others have done and we have already incorporated. So in that sense, India's approach to sustainability is far more robust, is far more, if I may really put it, well educated. It is not reinventing the wheel. What we are expecting going forward is regulations around carbon trading and a more detailed focus on impact assessment when it comes to reporting. That's what we are expecting going forward. We will likely to see more circulars around this from SEBI. But all in all, it's a very planned, thought of, systematic approach that SEBI is taking. About industry practice and the impact. Coming to Shailendra's question, what does it take to build a strong sustainability practice? If I just leave the jargons aside and all the complexity and take it very, very simply, let me try and explain it in what it is, how do we do it, and what is the intended impact. So what is sustainability? Well, you identify your ESG risk and opportunities. The key word here is opportunities. Companies, while reporting, focus on risk. In fact, many sustainability reports, you will find the risk being identified in the sustainability report, but no mitigation in KPIs. So you need to identify your risk and your opportunities both. A plan to address them, which is basically your ESG agenda or sustainability strategy, whatever that name that you choose to give it, but have a plan to address it and then act on the plan. That is basically your KPIs and your performance reviews and impact assessments, all of that. So what is it? Very broadly, identify your ESG risk and opportunities, have a plan to address them, and act on the plan. And then you can choose any framework. And I mean that because all of these frameworks are good. You want a framework which is more into reporting, you may want to look at SASB. Now, SASB has gone through changes like this, eventually went into integrated reporting and then now value reporting. So we're waiting if there is more changes in there. But if it is reporting focused, you can choose SASB, the original one as well. You can choose TCFD, you can choose GRI, you can choose UNGC, BRSR. These are good frameworks. The only thing that you need to focus on, don't change it too frequently. Let it be there. Use it for at least a period of 3 years so that there is consistency, there is comparability, and you can monitor yourself on how it is going. So select a framework. In fact, if you don't even select the framework and just focus on 5 things which I'll be talking about now, it is good enough in the eyes of your investors and regulators as well. These are voluntary codes. These are not something that you need to. Yes, legislatively, if you need to report, that's a different issue. Then write your KPIs, what we call the practitioner scorecard. At DA Consulting, when we write the sustainability, when we build sustainability practice and write the report, we take the balanced scorecard approach on it. So you have the strategy map for sustainability function and the KPIs. So the entire thing is number driven. Right. So if you read or if you're claiming that your company has reduced carbon emissions by, let's say, 20%, which is huge, it is the KPIs which tell you the how. This is how we have reduced. And the numbers there are supported by data frameworks. Why is the source taken? What is the frequency? How does the source collect data? What is the frequency of transmission of data? How is data manipulated to give information? Manipulation not in the negative sense, but data by itself is dumb. Oh, this is what is the how part of it. Now, while we are doing this, we have enough choices on KPIs to select what generally is good. But you should select KPIs that at least touch 2 of these 3. 1, it must impact business profitability, and I'll give you examples of this as we go ahead. Second, it must impact business continuity, and in equal proportion must impact the environment. This is a basic, simple blueprint for a good, sustainable practice. After that, you can report on whichever framework you so choose to, or multiple frameworks per se. Now, while doing this, remember sustainability, how does it link up? Okay, there are 3 areas that you can see on your screen: risk, stakeholders, and the profit motive. Now, there is no function in an organization that doesn't contribute, small or big, either to the top line or to the bottom line or both. If it doesn't contribute, the function will not exist in the company. And the company's main motive is profit. And to be very honest, we need profitable companies because loss-making companies will eventually sink, which will cause a bigger social issue, which we don't want. So yes, we need profitable companies. sustainability should also contribute to the profitability of the company. If it does not, it will not exist. After some time, it will be a clerical work. So where does it connect? One is to your risk profile. That's where your material map comes in, where you identify your risk and the opportunities. No company delivers on its own. It delivers through its stakeholders, suppliers, employees, so on and so forth. All of these guys touch base with the company or associate with the company on certain aspects. So when we do stakeholder mapping, it is not so much about where the stakeholder contributes to your business. That is a given. That's the reason why they are stakeholders. But we do a reverse stakeholder to understand what is this, let's say the supplier's challenges. What kind of issues are he facing? How much of his purse am I? How much do I contribute to his purse? How do I build what are his vulnerabilities? The reason why we get into his business is because we want to assure ourselves that there will be continuity. So if you're a payroll person, for example, he may have worked with you for 10 years, 20 years, never a default. But if he doesn't, and this is a live example that I'm actually giving, if he doesn't manage his cash flow very well, he's going to sink. And this is exactly what happened with one of our clients. Luckily, they had built redundancy internally, so continuity of the service happened. When we do stakeholder mapping, it is a reverse stakeholder mapping that we focus on, so that business continuity remains. The profit motive, a very important segment here. In the profit motive, every company exists because of the profit motive. We all know that. So where does sustainability contribute is the question that we ask. So if we are going to, let's say, one of the areas that sustainability can improve on is by improving the brand of the company. So if you are going to be, let's say, carbon neutral by a particular year, it is not so much about the transactional work. That part is important, but where that is going to contribute and how is it going to increase the brand value? And as we all know, brand valuations, you can calculate that. So the overall strategic goal could be to improve the brand. It could be to improve the cost of operations or reduce the cost of operations or improve or start a new sustainability product line, so on and so forth. So the strategic goals are put in place aligned to profitability. That's fundamentally your cost or revenue. And then you come down to the scorecard, which will purely talk numbers. Let's take a company. I'm sure we are aware of Lego at some point. I'm sure all of us would have played with Lego. A legacy company, fourth generation entrepreneur. The company is known for its standards. Now, Lego never started its sustainability practice for sustainability. It was only trying to be a responsible business, which has always been in the DNA of the company. Now, this is a business completely on plastic. The customers, the users of this are children. And you know what they do with toys, put it in the mouth and so on and so forth. So safety is a concern. And when they actually started, they invested heavily on R&D. Till date, they don't have a replacement for plastic, but they're slowly getting there. One success that they have had for all the climate conscious people who do a great job in fishing out all those Pearl PET bottles from our oceans, our rivers, and so on and so forth. This is a company that buys them. Now, like I said earlier, it should be linked to business profitability and continuity, right? And impact the environment. One of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest benefits of them buying this, after they've bought it, they reprocess it and make Lego bricks, the 2 bricks. So 1 liter PET bottle gives them about 10 Lego bricks, the smaller ones. Good for the environment. It's an encouragement to everybody to fish out more. Also, the financial impact is that the cost of raw material has gone down. Because if 10% of the Lego bricks, the 2 bricks one, comes out of recycled PET bottles, the financial impact is massive. And they are not buying it at the market rate of the other plastic raw materials that they are buying. They're buying it at a very cheap rate. Practices like this which benefit the business and benefit the environment. That is what I'm talking about. Famous case, Paul Polman of Unilever, who actually used sustainability as a business strategy to reverse the falling sales of Unilever. And of course, we know Heineken, in whichever language, Heineken is a known brand. A short video, if I can play that. This is their sustainability report of 2015. A company that took on to sustainability ahead of time.
Captain, can you share the link in the chat box for people to see it? And we can wait for a couple of minutes until they finish seeing the video, because the audio of this is not very clear. Can you just share the link in the chat box, please? We will wait for Captain to share the link. Just give me a moment. I'll see if I can find the link. Just spare me some time.
Anushri, do you want to take up till? Okay. Now I think I think there is some problem with video. Yeah.
Yeah, if Captain, you can share the link, we can play the video, or viewers can play the video, and we can wait for the duration of the video.
Okay, the video didn't come up?
No, it didn't.
All right, fair enough. I'll share the link for that.
Thank you so much.
All right. So there are 5 pillars, the way we look at it when we are talking about building a good sustainability practice. The first is your strategy or your vision, and the linkage of sustainability as a function to the profit motive of the company. It has to start from there. The second is your risk and your opportunities, so the material map. Third is your stakeholder mapping. Fourth is your metrics, or what we call the practitioner scorecard. And what goes into your KPI, the first thing that go into your KPI is your material items from your material map and your stakeholder mapping. Both of this go first, and then the business strategy, and then the stakeholder communication framework. Now, to support this, let me take a live case study of a company called Allbirds. Now, this company is not present in our part of the world. It's a company which is in the US and they're now in Europe as well. Formed by Tim Brown. Tim Brown is a New Zealander and he used to play soccer. After he finished playing soccer, he started Allbirds. And he was looking for an answer for his problem because when they play soccer, the shoes that they wear are not always comfortable for players. Okay, they're generally bright logos, they're for us as spectators. So the focus is always on the brand. So he always wanted a shoe which is comfortable. So he went to London School of Business and did his MBA and eventually launched Allbirds. Let's understand this, what exactly they do.
People were really changing the way that they were living.
Do you hear?
We can hear the voice is very choppy. You can start playing the video. Maybe you can turn your video off. Yeah.
Okay. I do that.
People were really changing the way that they were living. But shoes just hadn't kept up. It was a huge opportunity to get to rethink the way the shoes are made.
The video is not very clear, Captain. Can you please share the link in the chat box? We will see it later. I mean, let this participants see the video by themselves. Captain? The video is freezed over here. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes for the video to end. I mean, the duration of the video to end. We will share the link of the videos in the chat box pretty soon. Until then, let me just try to share my screen.
So that's how Allbirds started. By making simple shoes. There's just one sustainability practice that they took on. That's sustainable manufacturing. They looked at the raw material and they made it renewable. So no synthetics, no leather, merino wool. And the source of merino wool was sheep's, wood, even rotting trees would meet their purpose. So it was renewable. That's how it started. The focus of the management on the top management was completely clear. They stayed the course. And what happened after that is history. So Allbirds compete with companies like brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok. They are nowhere close to it. Nowhere close to it. But they are an evolving challenger to them. Let's look at their financials a little bit. The light blue bars is their revenue. So sales was picking up. Customers were accepting their product. Year on year, they saw increase in sale. However, the operating losses only increased every year. Net margins only went down. This company was formed in 2015. They went public in November 2019 as a loss-making company. The first cent they made in the last quarter of the last financial year. That is in 23. So since 2015, it has been loss-making. They got listed, like I said, in November 2019. They were listed at $15 a share. And there was a huge debate on the valuation. The very first day, the stocks went up to $26. And ever since that, it has only been going down. Currently, it is somewhere around $1.4, $1.5 a share. Okay. This is what happened to the market cap during COVID. A 70% drop. Now you can use any financial parameter. Everything will tell you, don't invest in this company. Would you really want to invest your hard-earned money into Allbirds? Probably the answer is no. And evaluate from any angle. This company should have died long time back. But no, the company survives. In fact, it is thriving. And what's interesting in this is this line. Where does it get its funds from? Its investors never left it. 7 rounds of funding, 202.5 million till 2020. And these are some of their investors. Franklin, Templeton, Fidelity, Tiger Global, and these investors are not small by any standards. Their investors never left them despite it being a loss-making company. And ESG rating companies have always been rating them as low risk. And the company has survived. In fact, like I said, they're actually thriving. It is the turnaround has just about begun. There were certain challenges which they have overcome. They have the learning curve as well. But one sustainability practice can have this kind of an impact. Just to summarize, it started in 2015. Opportunity was to make simple, comfortable shoes. In 21, they made net losses. They had negative cash flow. They went public in 21, $15 a share, touched maximum of 26, approximately 4.2 on an average after that. Currently, they are at 1. Market cap dropped 70% during COVID, 7 rounds of funding. So far, we are aware of 1 investor attrition. Otherwise, investors have stuck with them. And we really understand what Zoe, who is the co-founder, actually talks about.
Who is investing in this expects
This is during the list. Connecting strong sustainability practice to strong financial and environmental outcomes. Sustainability is a tool is available to the management, to the board, to actually drive meaningful, purposeful business ethically and profitably. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Captain. And what enlightening session. You not just talked about negativities or negative impact, but also positive impact on the companies and great insights, and some of them are real eye-opener. So now I will go to our next panelist, Sridhar. So, Sridhar, obviously you have been leading organization on various boards and sitting in various committees. But just wondering is that to you is how is the adoption of sustainability as a business strategy, enticing basically the boards and CEOs, and what are the decision points, I would say, the challenges and opportunities when we view it from CEO's desk?
Well, thanks, Shailendra. I'll try to answer in very, very simple terms. I think there's one statement which Tapas made is very, very important. ESG is not a compliance tool. And if we take ESG as a compliance tool, we will fail. because we'll try and meet what is required to be met. I think what is important is to understand the principle and the purpose behind ESG. And that reference is not from the business point of view, but from an everyday life point of view. Tapas spoke about the climate change. Climate talk about the way we are living today in every day. That's the impact, and that is what it's translating into saying, okay, as big corporate enterprises, small enterprises, medium enterprises, can we collectively do something different? Okay, having said that, I know currently ESG is seen as a big animal for compliance. I think that's something I would like all of you listening to really forget about it as a compliance. That's very, very important. And second thing is, it is no longer about the CEO on the board having it as a responsibility. We as employees of the companies, we as good corporate citizens, as part of our day-to-day living, we are in this life because the world has given us this life. We have a little responsibility to give back to society. To take ESG as giving back to the society and not saying as a, because I'm doing a work, I've been asked to do some work. That's number two. Third thing, as a CEO, what I've said is, it can never be a top-down approach. It has to be seen as a collective responsibilities, and every single colleague working with us have to feel some changes happening. So I'm just going to explain this to you in a couple of examples, Shailendra, what I did when I was in Pfizer. We decided to move into a new office about 10 years back. And when we moved into your offices, we're very clear on one thing. The office we're going to go into is going to be in a building which promises and delivers on energy savings. Especially the facade, especially from the cities, we will not go into any office which doesn't have the compliance. It took us a lot of time to hunt for the office, and we did hunt for it. It came at a particular cost. But we felt that we didn't feel the cost. We felt that we're making an investment. Just as we do CapEx investment, we are making investment. And trust me, the whole move to the new office in that environment transformed the organization from a different culture to a very different culture. So first starts off with moving to an office with a purpose in mind. Second thing we said was, we were a very old company in the country, 1947 company. We moved to a completely transparent open office for everyone. No cabins, tables, everybody equal. Every colleague is equal, including the CEO. So suddenly, from multi-storied office, we were able to save and optimize on space. We could put more people on a table space. That created a sort of an energy level in the organization, which they saw a CEO working in an open office, leadership team working next to each other, and there was no cabins, no demarcations, nothing. Okay, that's number two. Third thing we said, our office should do the principles, what we're living for. And one of the experiences we had was we're wasting a lot of paper in our previous office, printing a lot of stuff, lying out there. We made three big changes in the office. Simple as that, okay? One is a paperless office. That means, first and foremost, there is no dustbins in anybody, no dustbins at all. We just removed it out. We only put one dustbin for the entire floor, demarcating into paper, into plastic, into food waste. As a result, multiple things happen. One, the whole anxiety of printing a paper, because printer was next to you, got removed. We saved on paper. Third, people started walking up from the chair and going towards the dustbin. As a result, they started interacting with a lot of people in the process there, and they started understanding it better. We had no projectors in any meeting rooms. No projectors. I'm talking about 10 to 12 years, only on Wi-Fi, because projector was leading to a heat, leading to a lot of other emissions. We said no projector. Thirdly, no writing pads. And there was no telephone on anybody's table. We didn't do any telephone on anybody's table, because telephone was forcing people to call into a neighbor on the phone. We said no. Go get across to talking to people around. So when we started doing small things like this, the organization saw that we're becoming a very modern, a very, very understanding the society very well, suddenly the culture, the organization changed from a very, very historic way of working to a very modern way of working, and collaboration increased. As a result, the output increased significantly. Okay. So for me, that was amazingly wonderful experience. Second thing is, because of climate change, you see very significantly heat waves in the north. Lots of heat wave coming up in the north. We used to tell people, drink a lot of water, drink a lot of people, drink a lot of water. And we said, yeah, rather than saying drink a lot of water, why don't we take one step ahead? Typically, when I was doing a lot of field work, I used to see reps carrying one bottle of water because it's very difficult for them to carry more than that. And then they will, stagger the drinking over the day because they want to really maximize on that. And I said, that's not the right thing. We actually said, everybody, drinking water is most important. We are telling you, go ahead and buy your water. If your water gets over, go ahead, buy 2 or 3 bottles of water. We will give allowance for it. Trust me, we didn't think it was a big thing to do. But when I was hitting the field after that, the amount of appreciation we were getting from the field was amazing. Simple thing as telling and giving them go buy water and going by saying, go, company will support you on that. And even the day I was leaving, even my company, they said that small initiative of yours, not just told us what the company is, we started really enjoying what we are. And of course, and the last thing is everything didn't work well. One of the areas where we felt we didn't do very well was women in field force. We just couldn't get that corrected because the environment is just not conducive for that. The toilets, the operating environment, the training for the people. So therefore, I do believe that EAG, what I mean is, there are small things which you can do, which can make an impact on the organization, on the employee motivation, pay back quick returns. At the same time, some of the, like Tapas said, will take a lot more time to execute. And hence, do not try and go and approach things which are long term. Start with something which is happening today. Start with something that's immediate. Over a period of time, automatically organization thinking will transform because you need every single colleague in the organization to understand what EAG is. It is not a compliance tool, but it's a way of living, way of working to be captured saying we are proud to be working in a company which follows good practices. That's what I would say.
Well said, Sridhar. And you mentioned about that this is not just CEOs or senior leadership role, but I think every person can take charge, and he or she could be the leader. Very interestingly, you are talking about collective responsibility. Purpose is mind. I think that's very important and very, very interesting. Simple things. The examples which you are given, I'm sure the change will start like that. And, of course, Captain was talking about the profitability and doing sustainability, obviously shareholders, and you have to keep in mind all this costs. But you are CFO and a chartered accountant, so cost always comes on your mind first. But at the same time, I think it's really good to see the transition which you have made and really given more weightage for sustainability. But tell me, Sridhar, is that how do you see profitability versus sustainability trade-off? How does it play on your mind?
It's a fairly a big question and $1 million question, like Tapas said. There's no right answer to this, but I will answer it differently. As a company, this question can be answered by what are your ethics and principles you're standing for. That cannot get compromised. Okay, for example, the example which Tapas gave on the shoes, Edwards shoes. The person had a very strong belief statement saying, I believe in it and that's my vision. For me, an answer to a question, system profitability starts from the organization's ethics and principles. What is it? That cannot be wavering. That has to be very, very firm. And I'll actually back it up with one example, which probably I can relate to it. I had taken on this role as a CEO, as an interim CEO, before I was confirmed as a CEO. At that point of time, we did have a big cough product. It was one of the biggest product in the country, biggest pharmaceutical product in the country, in the industry. Okay. It was predominantly developed many years back for dry cough. There are two kinds of cough, wet and dry cough. We developed, this was for dry cough. And when we do it for dry cough, it does require some narcotics to be used as ingredient. Okay, very important component of the product for it, and has got a very strong therapeutic value, for dry cough. But however, given our culture, our environment, the country, over a period of time, we realized that this product was getting misused or was getting into a habit-forming condition. And as a result, over the years, there was always a friction in the organization and the government and the regulatory bodies on this kind of a thing. And then we were losing a lot of management focus and time on trying, though we fundamentally believe it has got a very strong therapeutic value, patients benefit from it, doctors leverage it. But at the end of the day, when we saw people misusing the product, we are a company which is here to bring breakthroughs that will change patients' life positively. We are not in the purpose of trying to sell a medicine at the cost of creating social distrust, misuse. Okay. And second, it was getting into a little bit of a distraction for the business. So we said, as a leading corporate company, the biggest brand in the industry, what we had, highly profitable, we said that is not the business we want to be in. If a product is not being used for the product what is entitled to a large extent, that is not the business we want to be in. And we decided to withdraw the product. That was a decision we took, and that was the support I had leadership team. That's number one. That's only a beginning of the thing. But to have a very strong board of directors in my company who really had the same vision as a company and said that's the right thing to do. And to have a very strong Pfizer Inc. as a parent company who is saying that's the right thing to do, it's very critical. So it's not just what you believe in it, does your senior management and your entire organization believe in it? And we took that decision to withdraw it overnight. And that example, and doctor, what really happened was a few things. One, the government really appreciated it, saying you're probably the first big company, biggest product in the industry, withdrawing it for certain reasons. Thank you very much. That's number one. We started really leveraging a communication. It's important that we don't tell people withdrawing it. We create a communication with the colleagues, the employees, with the trade, the doctors, why we are doing it, and make them feel part of the strategy of saying why we should do this, the right thing to do. Getting everyone to the same page, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. Third, employees have to think about it because they were all used to earning some incentives on good sales, right? They were going to lose the incentive. They were going to lose the revenue or lose the profitability. It was important to explain to them why we are doing that. Therefore, create a pathway to say, okay, fine. When we are selling such a big brand, we are focusing all attention on one brand. We did not look at opportunities in the market to do alternative brands. The white spaces. What should we acquire brands for? Suddenly our opening mind opened up saying, hey, we should miss this brand, but there's so many other line extensions we can launch. We can acquire this brand. So in the matter of about 2 years' time, we could actually mitigate to a large extent the loss of revenue of one brand, but that opened up a significant opportunities for us to look at the business very differently, which you would never have thought about it earlier. Therefore, tomorrow, when we hit the field, the employees were happy, saying they now don't have to have the problem. The doctors were happy. The trade was very happy, saying that we as a company have taken a policy decision to say we are not going after profits and revenue, but we believe a product which has outlived its life, what it wants to be, which we still believe it's a fantastic product. The society had different options. We are not going to sell the brand. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's nothing going to trade off. It is you do things what you believe is right. You think these kind of investments are like capex. When you set up a plant tomorrow, you invest in capex. You don't think twice. We always say the investment capex will give me return tomorrow. When all of us do a brand launch, we do a business case. We say this is what the brand needs investment, and the revenue will grow. frankly speaking, sustainability is also integral part of investments, and it should pay off returns, maybe not immediately. And tomorrow when a cost cut comes, this is not an area to say I'll cut cost, because this is going to be looking at activity which is either going to enhance valuation of the company, enhance the way you do things business, try and get you people a different set of employees to work with it. So I believe it's not a trade-off. It is a vision statement and a belief statement, and try and do small things which will lead you to do a midterm and the long-term course corrections. So that's on number one. That's on the example of my company. Now, I just want to connect it to, forget a big company. I was recently in a Udupi hotel in Matunga.
Okay.
People are not from Mumbai. Udupi hotel is a small restaurant which gives you idli dosa. Simple as that. Very, very simple hotel. People from Mumbai will connect it better. Hotel, I finished eating. I didn't see tissue paper on the table. So I asked for, can I have a tissue paper? Waiter said, sorry, sir, we don't give tissue papers because of two reasons. One, a segregation of wet and dry policy. People who come in, who eat out here, tend to put the tissue paper wiping in the same food as it. It leads to us actually clearing up the tissue paper from the food. One, it wastes time. And second, it is not the right utility of resources. So as a management, we believe we want to take a right step forward, and we believe we should stop issuing tissue paper. That's the number one. The second thing was beautiful for me, because this is where I felt the management has communicated how to communicate it to people who come there. Sir, there's a small wash basin just about a few steps away from you. You can either use that, or sir, I can get you a finger bowl if you're uncomfortable with it. It's a small Udupi hotel. Now tell me, all of us actually got up from a seat, went and washed our hands there. Now, what I meant here, example is, it is just a decision to take to withdraw the tissue paper. But you also coach your employees to say, you will get this question from your people coming in. How should you answer those questions? So that the person receiving in also doesn't feel bad about it, right? He could have very well said, "Hamare paas tissue paper nahi hai," going away. But he also explained and made the person feel nice about it. For me, it was a very small example. But I thought the culture and the thinking of the owner was cascading down to it, and people actually adopting it there. For me, that is ESG. So as an organization, if we can have a very strong collective thinking and say, okay, in every aspect of it, how do we live in it? For me, it is absolutely wonderful. And I also agree with Tapas. ESG is not about, it's about abuse of what we do in our everyday life. If you can reduce the abuse what you do, and try to convert that into positivity, for me, that will be a great turnaround for the environment and for the country and the world we're living in, I would say.
Wow, great examples, Sridhar. And first of all, really congratulations to you and the entire leadership of Pfizer at that time to take such a bold decision. You know, it requires courage to take such decision, particularly when it's the highest selling product of your company. So it's a great
not my company, in the industry. In the industry, it was one of the highest
industry and country, right? You said, and what you believed is this is right thing to do, and that is where I think the responsible leadership will matter a lot among various organizations. I'm of a firm belief that even if 20 organizations start demonstrating this kind of a leadership behavior, I think it is going to motivate hundreds of companies. And I think this is clearly coming out of your examples. And even the Udupi example was a classic case, you know, not just corporate case, but how small outlets and SMEs could be thinking in their own way. And great stuff. I'm looking at the watch, of course, you know, we will have to go for question and answers. And of course, before that, sorry, Anushri, I want to hand over to you. Great session so far. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Shailendra sir. So thank you, Captain, and thank you, Sridhar sir, for giving lots of insights on ESG from the business point of view to the daily routine on one-on-one activities which we can adopt to adopt the overall ESG in our lives is very enlightening. Captain Tapas spoke a lot about business point of view. How did business succeed by adopting the ESG in their revenue aspects and all other aspects in general practices. But there is another side to it, and that is from the investor's point of view. So today I would like to share a shift, or you can say a change in the landscape of investors as well. So there was an interesting question with which Captain asked her, would you invest in Allbirds, knowing that they are not profitable in the initial years and all the other things? And that's where my concept begins, the concept of green investing. So yes, we have heard a lot of claims and other topics which Tapas walked us through. But the topic which I would like to show up upon is something which is related to green investing. Let me share my screen. I'll quickly walk you through what is the change in the landscape so far. So right from the green investing, there is a mindset which has been changed so far. So I hope you share my see my screen. So there has been a total mindset change in the investing portion from the stakeholders. Earlier, it was more on the business, the profits, or for the business values. It was more on the profits. It was more on the EBITDA, so EBITDA, and the dividend per share, of course. So that was the initial thought of the business values. But now, slowly with the ESG and acceptance of the overall business aspects of ESG, now the focus is main on the customer retention, low carbon emission. So these are the financial aspects now have slowly started to go ahead and turn into the non-financial aspects of investing. This is what we, in the field of ESG, we term it as the green investing. The focus of the investors is now moving from only the financials to, of course, to the sustainability factors as well, like low carbon emission, human, more on the human retention or human policies which a company adopt, fair human practices. All of these are a very high contributing factors in the investing so far. Again, there is a ESG appeal, which is earlier it was the ratings which were given, but now it is the ESG score which is looked after. That okay, the company which I'm investing, how good it is rated for the ESG score. What are the ESG practices? How often they do follow the ESG practices? Are there any CSR activities conducted by the companies? What are these? Are they helping them to build up their businesses? So this is the change in the mindset from the investor's point of view. I truly appreciate that there has been a shift in the business point of view, but from the investor's point of view, the risk assessment has also moved from the interest concentric approach to the climate change risks, the supply chain risks. More importance is given to how the company in which I'm investing is good enough for the climate risk. Is it very much not concentrating upon the climate changes which it is causing or not? So these are certain factors in which the investors are now looking into, and the companies are being evaluated by the investors. So this is a very important change in the landscape, and how the ESG all over is changing the reporting or impacting the ESG reporting. So it has the lower cost of capitals. So yes, definitely what happens is that the better the company is performing, lower are the costs of capital from that perspective. Increase in the stakeholders value, definitely. The C-suite leaders and the investment professionals are definitely looking into the ESG strategies and the programs to go ahead and contribute to the stakeholders value. And the most important is to attract more investments. So there have been the corporates who are willing to go ahead and pay almost 10% of the premium to acquire the companies with a positive and record for the ESG issues. So there have been a lot of impact on the ESG reporting, although what happens is that it doesn't has to be seen from a burden or a compliance point of view, but this becomes a very important part so as to give transparency to the people to understand that what a company is doing. So from my point of view, if you ask me, is the ESG reporting very important? Yes, it increases the transparency. Everyone will go ahead and understand what a company is doing from the ESG aspects for the company. Earlier, this was even better. I would say in the traditional approach, it was just a PDF. And I really doubt that reading all the text how exhaustive it will be. But now, slowly and gradually, with the adoption of the digital reporting for India, we have BRSR. In those aspects, you get the exact quantitative values which you want to see for a given company, and that the shift also has been done from the traditional reporting to the digital reporting. So yes, why digital reporting? Because it increases the transparency. You directly get to see the quantitative data. You do not just have to read the texts, but yes, whatever is the value. For example, it's the carbon emission. You can immediately find out the value. You can immediately find out the associated digital, concept for it. This makes the data accurate, it makes the data transparent, and it makes the data, most important, comparable. From the investor's point of view, yes, definitely, I would like to go ahead and invest in a company which is more sustainable, which is more inclined towards their ESG aspects, and which is more, going to help me in my increasing my green investing portfolio. So definitely, comparability between the companies is something which gives great aspects. On the screen, you can see a few of the peer-to-peer benchmarking for companies, for example, A, B, and C. We can see the energy management, the GHG, greenhouse gas emissions, water management, and the hazardous waste management. So these are certain aspects on which you can go ahead and compare. Apart from that, for the current reportings, for just like BRSR we have, you can very well go ahead and you can watch out the aspects. So from here on the screen, which you can see companies like GE Power, L&T, Reliance Power, we can see Tata Power, we can see. So over here, as of now, I can see the data for the total number of trainee awareness. So these are also certain kind of programs which the company is employing to enhance its ESG capabilities. And you as a green investor, you can definitely go ahead and draw the comparison between the peer-to-peer sectors. With IRIS Carbon and IRIS iConnect, you can go ahead, draw the peer-to-peer comparison, and very well go ahead for the digital reporting, the shift from the traditional PDF to the digital reporting. Again, PDF, when we say it is more of the papers, digital, when we say it is more on the cloud. Again, that is one of the aspects of going green and going digital. That is all my time. That is all I want to say. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Thanks, Anushree. So it's 90 minutes, we really have managed well, and really, really great insights by all three of you. I'm sure there are, it's going to create a lot of awareness, and I think it's going to be really important, this kind of a series, what we are doing over next couple of months is going to create that awareness. And I think it's going to be extremely important, because on one side, one could think about carrot, and on the other side, stick. So basically, kind of incentives or regulations will all drive the change, but it will not be drive the change completely unless you really look at the complete ESG in most responsible manner. And I think we had two, great examples, means what Captain Tapas shared, and then Sridhar shared with us from the industry. I think great examples. I'm sure that it is going to create a lot of awareness, and importantly, the interest among all the stakeholders and organizations. Now on the question and answer, if somebody has a question, right, Anushree, how do you suggest?
We have a question asking that will the recording of this will be accessed and it will be shared to the participants. That is all the questions which I can see over here.
Okay. See, I'm sure that the participants also will think through, and I'm sure they are going to post their questions, because this is all real eye-opener, for all of us. Very important. So maybe just going back to Captain and Sridhar, about any last words on your mind?
No, like I said, from my side, I said ESG comes in from our individual belief statement and our figure. Therefore, it's not a compliance tool. Just as In fact, I learn a lot from my boy. My boy is able to have far more engaging conversations on the society and the impact, because in the schools they're taught very differently. And I just wish that I was probably born a few years down the line. I would have probably been a better person there. So it is about trying to do what is best for society to the company you're working for. So it's a natural extension of our job, and not try to look at it as saying somebody's forcing me to report something. That's what I would say. And therefore, start with something simple and small. You don't have to go into a very big way. Capture what you're doing today. You'll feel nice about it. Communicate widely. Get the organization to understand.
Super. I can see some questions now.
Yeah.
So
Read it out. Yeah.
yeah, Anushree.
Yes. So we have a question. Can you please tell me which is the best course for ESG? Here,
Okay, I'll try and take that question.
you would like to go and answer that.
Okay, so there is no one course that actually will meet all the requirements. Okay, there's one thing about sustainability which is different from other functions, which is like, for example, if you are going to be the CFO of a company, you would have done in your career accounts receivables, accounts payable, audit, and all of those functions, and then you become the CFO. Same with the HR. But if you are to become the CSO, the Chief Sustainability Officer, then you could come from a background of being an environment engineer or a water scientist. Can't be both. You could probably do impact investing and reporting. But someone who is doing impact investing may not understand waste recycling as much. Our domain is full of very deep specializations. And we are not just, we are a culmination of association of many specializations. So doing one course and everything is addressed is a myth. It is not possible. So select which area you want, because all of these are good. Impact investing is good. Reporting is good. Carbon measurement and capture is good. Carbon accounting is good. So on and so forth. So select one area which you feel is your strength area, and then look for courses on that. So, and even when you're looking at courses, there are big brand names, there are small brand names. To me, that doesn't matter. What matters more is how are they actually delivering the course. Look at something that helps you practice, helps you, gives you opportunities to simulate and work so that you're plug and play. One of the courses that we can recommend that we conduct is, if you're into reporting, then the sustainability reporting practitioner course. If you're at the director level, then we have the ESG proficient director course, where we do a lot of business simulations. We do a lot of case studies. Some of them you just saw today. So choose which one that you want, but look at course content and make the key differentiator those courses which help you practice. Because theory you will get a lot. There's no dearth of theory. The challenge is when we put theory into practice. So look for courses that give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Captain. We have another question, which is that please explain sustainability for financial institution. That's an interesting question, because the most of the sustainability questions run around water management, waste management. But here for the financial institution, how can they adopt the sustainability approach, sustainable approach?
All right. Let me try and answer that. When we are talking about sustainability, it is sustainability of the business. Now, one of the mistakes that companies tend to do, and you can look at the sustainability reports of major companies and you will find this. You tend to define risks on ESG parameters. That's wrong. There is nothing called ESG risk. There are business risks, which you then classify it under E, S, and G, economic and maybe a miscellaneous. But fundamentally, it is business risk is where you align to. Now, when you're doing that, depending upon what business you are in, your risk profile is different. Risk and opportunity profile is different. So for a chemical manufacturing company, the potential on, let's say, the waste recycling, on carbon emissions is very high. But when it comes to a financial institution, let's say a company that promotes financial investment products, it may not be waste recycling. It's not that they have zero waste. They do, but not to the extent of a chemical manufacturing company. So you need to look at that profile. Like for example, now because their products are typically digital, their focus on energy is very high. The consumption of energy is very high. And where does this energy come from? It comes from coal-fired power plants as of today. So you are technically increasing the demand for fossil fuel, thereby increasing the emission. So if you can reduce your carbon emission or your energy consumption, and increase the percentage of renewable energy in your energy consumption, then you make yourself a far more sustainable business. And if you go by the budgets this year, what the government, the interim budget, the government is incentivizing rooftop solar panels as well. So there are a lot of industry initiatives that you can take advantage as well and reduce on your cost or increase your efficiency or increase the top line or the bottom line impact, both. Because you're going to be using more of computers, data centers, look at renewable. Look at, like for example, we use computers, and typically an organization would replace the computers in, let's say, 3 years. One of the major reasons why they replace is because the upgrades that keep happening in softwares. After some time, your earlier configuration doesn't work. But if you can increase that contract of replacing from 3 years, let's say, to 5 years, you have saved a lot of IT assets from going into recycling. Look at refurbished products. In fact, the computer that I'm on right now is a refurbished product. It is extending the life of your product itself. Thereby, you're reducing overall. This is what impacts not just the environment, but also the P&L of the company. When you're renewing it, earlier you did it for 3 years, now you're doing it at 5 years. There is a financial impact on your business as well. And it's a positive impact, like what I discussed about. There should be impact on profitability, on continuity, and environment. These are the kind of initiatives that you can take on. I hope I could answer.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for taking that. We have another question, which is like, I'm looking for a professional certificate to later on work as an advisor. I think that question has already been answered. We can take another question. What small things can be done in an organization for ESG? The list is quite exhaustive, but yes, to start with, you can begin from yourself by adopting at least the least thing what we adopt at our office is avoiding to use the PET bottles, water bottles. We carry our own bottle mostly at many of the places. So just to avoid the plastic waste which is created, small steps, yes, bigger effects. You can start with that. But yes, Tapasya, you want to dive more into it? Sridhar sir, from your side, any insights on this?
So what do you?
Sridhar, if you want to take that.
No, carry on.
No, I was asking if you want to take that.
Like I said, guys, we need to demystify ESG into our day-to-day living. The minute you try and do that to day-to-day living, automatically you'll start doing small things. First, start off with internal customers. Forget external for the time being, because you need internal customers. You need to lead some changes there. That's the reason why when I was there, I looked at my employees, the way they work, what kind of challenges they go through, and what changes we need to bring about to make them feel that they're adding value to the society. Second, I look at business partners. What are they going through that, and what changes should we bring about to make about that? And then only I started looking at external things. You also need to have a very, very strong compliance framework. And I do believe for any kind of a company to adopt a ESG framework, having a very strong compliance ethics framework is very, very critical, however small or big you are. That has to be a guiding light to run your businesses. Compliances in terms of financial accounting, compliances in terms of risk management, compliances in terms of your whistleblower policies, compliances in terms of regulatory compliances. It has to be seen as saying, as a company, we will make mistakes, but I would like to do the right thing. And therefore, I would say you start looking at those things of areas which are a lot more tangible, and that becomes a fundamental before you start looking into a broader, complicated thing. And more importantly, if you're doing a product, try and invest some time on product innovation. What raw materials are being used? How is it being used by customers? What changes should we make about? So create it as an innovation hub in your own organization. I've always felt that employees and your people are able to share their thought processes to create a small innovation hub room. Even simple thing as putting post-its in those walls. So for example, when we moved to the new office, we had a big wall in the lobby, and I called it Pfizer Valley Wall. It's for any employee to go ahead and put a post-it on the wall and say, I believe this is what it is. Trust me, the amount of interest, excitement I got from employees sharing the thought processes, and then we'll go back and say, thank you, implemented. So the employees feel they're part of the journey, are able to express the thought process in that. So those are small, small things I would recommend do that.
Thank you, Sridhar sir, for shedding light on this particular factors of small things you can adopt by as a company as a whole, by individual as a whole. We have come to the end of the webinar, and we are almost above the time of 90 minutes. You can definitely write in your queries at hello@irisbusiness.com. We are happy to answer the queries over an email. Thank you for attending this webinar. To all the participants, we truly value your presence over here and appreciate your attendance over here. Thank you, speakers, and thank you, DA and Rosefield, for attending this particular or conducting this webinar along with Iris. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.